नमो विज्ञानरूपाय परमानन्दरूपिणे कृष्णाय गोपीनाथाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Good morning. Respected Principal of Dibru College, Dr. Jiti Buragohai sir. Respected resource person for today, Professor Mukta Biswas from Guwahati University, and participants of this webinar from the very different parts of the country. I am Dr. Aditi Borwa, coordinator of this two-day webinar, welcoming all of you for the second session, that is today's session of this webinar. Before beginning the session, I take the opportunity to introduce our resource person for today, Professor Mukta Biswas, who is a senior professor in the Department of Sanskrit, Guwahati University. And today she will speak on concept of plant science in Sanskrit literature. Professor Mukta Biswas did her MA in Sanskrit from Guwahati University, receiving 3 gold medals for obtaining the highest marks in the subject, and also obtained the MPhil and PhD degree from the same university. She joined the Department of Sanskrit, Guwahati University as a reader in 1999 and became a professor in 2009. She also served as the head of the department from 2012 to 2015. Till date, 15 students have obtained their PhD and MPhil degrees under her supervision. To her credit, she has as many as 50 research articles published in various national and international journals, has attended 40 national and international seminars and conferences, including 16th World Sanskrit Conference held in Bangkok, Thailand in 2015, 17th World Sanskrit Conference held in Vancouver, Canada in 2018, and International Conference on Folklore at Kustia, Bangladesh in 2019. She has authored 3 books, namely Sankhya Yoga Epistemology, Indian Philosophical Wisdom, Some Glimpses, and Flora and Fauna in Sanskrit Literature, and is also involved in a number of research projects. Professor Biswas is the winner of many awards, including Dr. V. Raghavan Award and the Jyotsnamoy Chatterjee Prize for the Best Paper at the 42nd and the 44th session of the All India Oriental Conference held in Varanasi in 2004 and in Kurukshetra in 2008, respectively. Before we hear from our esteemed resource person, I would like to remind the participants that, like yesterday, the interaction session will be held after the deliberation of Professor Biswas, and it will be moderated by Mrs. Nandita Vaishya, HOD English of Dibru College. So, respected participants, please put your queries in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. And it will be followed by the offering of vote of thanks by Mrs. Nandita Vaishya. Now I request Professor Mukta Biswas to enlighten us through her deliberation on the topic concept of plant science in Sanskrit literature.
Mukang karoti vachalam pongung langhayati girim jat kripa tamahang bandi paramananda madhavam. Respected Dr. Ritu Borgohai, Principal, Dibru College, Dibrugarh, Dr. Aditi Borua, Coordinator, Opener Lecture, Moderator, Mrs. Nandita Vaishya, faculty members of the college, and my dear students who have joined in this webinar lecture. I'd like to offer my thanks to the organizers of Dibru College, Dibrugarh, for providing me an opportunity to share this platform. I am thankful to the principal, faculty members, and students of the college. My sincere gratitude goes to the Department of Sanskrit, Dibru College, especially Dr. Aditi Borua and Mrs. Madhumita Borthakur for inviting me. I am really privileged and honored. Today I shall speak on the concept of plant science in ancient Sanskrit literature. Here I would like to say that I am not a man of science, particularly to say that I have no accessibility in the subject botany. Knowing my limitations, even I am trying to discuss this topic only to let people know that our ancient seers had the basic knowledge of plant science, creeper and oloshalo, creepers spreading on the ground. The Atharva Veda gave an almost complete enumeration of parts of a plant described in a hymn as reach in sweets the roots, reach in sweets the tips of them, reach in sweets the middle of the plant, reach in sweets the leaves, reach in sweets the flowers of them, reach in sweets the shoots and fruits. That means there is a complete enumeration of the parts of plant described in Atharva Veda. It is said that Madhumat Moolang, Madhumat Agram, Madhumat Madhyang Virudhang Babhuva, Madhumat Paranang, Madhumat Pushpam, and so on. Descriptive terms for the various parts of a tree, color, fruits and flowers, etc. are also found in the Vedic texts. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad compares a tree to the human body. Brihadaranyaka Upanishadot বৃক্ষক মানুহৰ লগত তুলনা কৰি কোৱা হৈছে গোটে এনুমাৰেশনছ খিনি প্লান্টছৰ ক্লাসিফিকেশন খিনি ইয়াতে দেখুৱা হৈছে আৰু তুলনামূলকভাৱে মানুহৰ লগত বৃক্ষক তুলনা কৰা হৈছে গছৰ পাত কেইটা মানুহৰ নোম গছৰ বাকলি হৈছে মানুহৰ গাৰ ছাল গছৰ ভিতৰৰ বাকলি ইনাৰ বাৰ্ক মানুহৰ শৰীৰৰ মাংসৰ লগত তুলনা কৰা হৈছে গছৰ ৰস হৈছে মানুহৰ শৰীৰৰ তেজ গছৰ একেবাৰে ভিতৰৰ অংশৰ innermost layer of barkৰ লগত মানুহৰ স্নায়ুৰ তুলনা কৰা হৈছে আৰু গছৰ যিটো কাঠ তাৰ লগতে মানুহৰ অস্থি আৰু গছৰ বিজল পদাৰ্থ বা পিত হল মানুহৰ মজ্জা this is indeed a detailed description of plant anatomy which finds similarity with the modern day plant anatomy. More complete and systematic accounts of the parts of a plant are found to be mentioned in the Mahabharata. These comprise Mulo, root, Tulo, shoot, Kando, stem, Bolsho, twig, Pushpo, flower, and follow, fruit. While plants have in addition Skandho, Shakha, branch, and Porno means leaf. In the Matsya Purana, another sort of morphological division is found. In this division, different parts of the branch of a tree, such as Skandha, Mahashakha, Shakha, Anushakha, Pratishakha, Prantashakha are found. This suggests that the main divisions are smaller parts. The root branch of the principal branch of a tree from which the other branches grow was called Skandha. The great branches were known as Mahashakha. The smaller branches that are grown from the great branches were named as Shakha, Anushakha, Pratishakha, etc. In the Vanaspatis like Vato, Ashwatha, etc., All these branches can be observed. In the Charaka Samhita, plants are classified on the basis of their medicinal properties. In this division, the principal two classes are Virechana, purgatives, and Kashayo, astringent. The astringent groups are again subdivided into 10 Borgos that I have not discussed because of paucity of time. The flower are also mentioned in the Kalika Purana. These are Pushpamula, the root of the flower, Pushpamadhya, the middle part of the flower, and Pushpagro, the tip of the flower, and Dalo, petals. It is said, Pushpamule basit Brahma, Pushpamadhi tu Keshavaha, Pushpagre tu Mahadevo, Sarve Deva Sthita Dale. In ancient Sanskrit literature, leaves of trees were classified as Ekapatro, Dipatro, Tripatro, Shaptaparno, and so on according to their number. It may be mentioned here that in Sanskrit, leaf is called Parno. A plant with spotted leaf is called Chitraparni. A leafless plant is called Kariro. Classification of plants as mentioned in the Vedas was in existence around 6000 BC, whereas Theophrastus, the Greek scholar who was considered to be the founder of modern botany in the West, made classification of the plants around 300 BC. Parashara in 100 BC mentioned the flowering plants into various families such as Samigoniya, Pupulicagoniya, Shastikagoniya, and Kurchagoniya. In modern times, 1700 AD, the families of flowering plants are mentioned into Leguminosae, then Rutaceae, Crucifera, and Asteraceae. It may be highlighted that the family names of the flowering plants made by Parashara are in agreement with that of the modern day enumeration, that is of the 1700 AD. There are in recent times the family names are changed and much more advancement is there. It is interesting to know that both external and internal morphology of plants were known to the ancient Indians. Seeds are found to be the principal source of plants. Mention of the words like Bijokosha, seed vessel, Shashya, endosperm, and Bijapatra, cotyledon in early works reveal the acquaintance of ancient Indians about the different parts of the seed. Parashara in his work gave a detailed description of Rashakosha, that is plant cell. He stated that plant cells contain Kalobeshtana, outer wall, Shukshma Patrako, inner cell, Ranjakajukto, Rashasrayo, sap with coloring matter, and Annasya, not visible to the naked eye. In modern era, Robert Hooke, 1665 AD, which are honeycomb types in structure. Significantly, description of plant cells given by Parashara bear similarity with that of Robert Hooke made in modern age with the help of a microscope. Physiology, this is the second classification of plants. Plants have been regarded as living beings since Vedic time. Ancient works like Rig Veda, Manu Samhita, Mahabharata reveal possession of knowledge regarding the consciousness of trees and plants. Ancient sages had their own way of knowing the plant physiology. In the Rig Veda, it is mentioned that plants possess the sense of hearing. Similar references are also found in the Mahabharata, where it is said that plants are endowed with the sensibilities of hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the feeling of joys and sorrows. It has been said, Sukha dukkhascha grahana chinnasya cha virohanat jivam pashyami vrikshanam achaitannam no vidyate. That means No achaitanyam, it is not unconscious. Plants are not unconscious. So consciousness in plant is recognized in the Manushanghita. It has been said that antasanga bhavantiti sukha dukkha samannita, which means trees have feelings. Bhagavata Purana and in the Agni Purana also, it has been said that the trees are living entities. It may be mentioned here that scientist Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bosu in 20th century, on the basis of his scientific experiments, revealed that trees have life, and the whole world was astonished on knowing this. It is surprising to know that what Jagadish Chandra Bosu said in the year 1900 was known to the seers of ancient times. An important aspect of plant physiology is photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis was known to the ancient Indians. They knew that plants absorb food from soil in a state of solution. Indians in the field of botany was the discovery of the phenomenon of absorption, transport, and preparation of food in the leaves of plants in the presence of solar energy and air. The Sanskrit name Padapa, the one who drinks water by foot for plant, substantiates this notion. American scientists Dixon and Joly, as recently as 1894, proposed the theory of suction force to explain the process of absorption of water by plants. Prasin হল তেওঁলোকে কৈছিল বৃক্ষ এজোপাই মাটিৰ পৰা মূল সংগ্ৰহ কৰে সেই খাদ্যখিনি গছৰ প্ৰত্যেকটো অংশত পঠিয়ায় আৰু পৰৱৰ্তী সময়ত বিশেষ প্ৰক্ৰিয়াৰ মাধ্যমেৰে সূৰ্য কিৰণ বতাহ পানী ইত্যাদিৰ সহায়ত পাতত খাদ্য প্ৰস্তুত কৰে এই ফটোসিনথেসিস প্ৰক্ৰিয়াটো মহাভাৰতৰ দ্বাদশ অধ্যায়ত অতি সুন্দৰকৈ আলোচনা কৰা হৈছে কোৱা হৈছে বক্ত্ৰেণ উৎপল নালেন যথোৰ্ধং জলম আদদেত তথা পবন সংযুক্ত পাদৈ পিবতি পাদপহ এর অর্থটো হল it is said that with the help of Agni, that is solar energy and air, this water, that is soil sap, which is absorbed through the roots and conveyed to their leaves, is prepared into food proper, and through assimilation of these food plants attain development and become graceful. Thus, what Stephen Hales demonstrated in AD 1727 seems to have been known to Vedic and post-Vedic Indians. Shusruta Samhita mentioned that people of ancient India were aware of Ritu, proper season, that is suitable temperature, conditions for germination of seeds. Gunaratna's commentary on Shardarshan Samuchaya further mentioned that the seeds of Bato, Ashwatha, Nimbo sprout during the rainy season under the influence of mentioned the botanical name of Bato and Ashwatha since I have already mentioned it. The suitability of particular seasons for planting of different saplings was found out. Thus, it is clear that Vedic and post-Vedic Indians had the knowledge that air, warmth, and water are necessary for germination of seeds and growth of plants. Ecology, this is the third classification. Ancient Indians classified plants in accordance with the nature of the soil in which they grow. For example, Jangala, arid, Onupo, marshy, and Sadharano, as they knew that the growth and development of plants depend to a great extent on climate and soil. Jangala was described as a region of open spaces where a steady dry wind blows. In such areas, there were few rivers and rivulets and consisted of dry and rough sand, known as Khodiro, Osono, and Bodori, among others. This is the Khodiro and Osono, which grow in the jungle region, and Bonjulo and Hintalo grow in the Onupo region. In the next slide, I shall show you. The Onupo region was stated to be a marshy tract bordered by seas. Some of the plants grown in this region were Banju. In my earlier slides, this is the picture of Bonjulo and Hintalo. The Sadharana region had some of the features common to the other two regions. Mandaro, Parijatoko, and Santano were some of the plants found in this region. Ancient people could correlate climatic variations like excessive rainfall, drought, etc., with the types of plants grown in a certain locality. Taxonomy, the fourth classification or the last classification. A scientific and rational procedure was adopted in the nomenclature of plants in ancient times as well. For example, plants were named in accordance with their spatial association, medicinal and other properties, environmental association, and other noticeable peculiarities. Medicinal properties were utilized in naming plants such as Dadrugno, eczema, Orshoghosho, curer of piles, Kushtagno, curer of Kushtha, Vishagno, curer of pain, Jivaniyo, prolonged life, etc. Example of naming plants on the basis of some domestic utility referred are Dantodhavana, cleaning of teeth, Lekhana, writing reed, etc. Khodiro was a common plant of which the twig is used as a toothbrush. The Matsya Purana mentions Jalojo, that is water plants, which emphasize the environmental association. Sometimes plants were given two names, one for their identification by the common people and the other to convey their medicinal or other properties. Method of plantation in ancient times. Proper method of sowing the seeds or saplings were known to the ancient people. It was observed that trees planted irregularly lost their vigor and beauty and also did not grow and develop properly and remained fruitless. For this reason, proper distance between the rows of plants was maintained while sowing the saplings. The Agni Purana stressed the need of planting trees in such a way that the gap between two and 20 cubits maximum. প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয়সকলে বৈজ্ঞানিক পদ্ধতিৰে বৃক্ষৰোপণ কৰাৰ কথা জানিছিল। গছ ৰোপণ কৰাৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত এজোপা গছৰ পৰা আনজোপা গছৰ উপযুক্ত দূৰত্ব 20 কিউবিট অৰ্থাৎ 20 হাত দূৰত্বত হ'ব লাগে বুলি কোৱা হয়। তেওঁলোকে যথাযথভাৱে এই নিয়ম পালন কৰিহে গছ ৰোপণ কৰিছিল। কোৱা হয় অনিয়মিতভাৱে বৃক্ষৰোপণ কৰিলে গছৰ বৃদ্ধি আৰু সতেজতা নেথাকে। Importance of soil for plantation of trees is also mentioned in the ancient texts. In ancient texts, various types of soils, namely Mrit, Mrittika, Mritsa, and Mritsna are mentioned, among which the Mritsa type of soil is found as the best one for the growth of the plants. Mrit and Mrittika are the clay soil, and Mritsa and Mritsna are the fertile soil. It has been found that people during ancient times were aware of proper method of watering the plants. In regard to the watering of plants, it is stated that people watered the plants on an observation of soil and season. It is stated that during summer, It requires to be watered twice a day. In winter, the soil needs to be watered in alternate day, and in rainy season, watering is needed only when the soil gets dried. During ancient times, people used to celebrate festivals related to trees. In the Matsya Purana, we find the description of Brikshopashana and Briksha Mahotsava. Briksha Mahotsava was a popular festival during Puranic days. It was observed with much pomp and gaiety. Nowadays, the ancient concept of Briksha Mahotsava finds reflection in the name of Vana Mahotsava, which is celebrated every year in the first week of the month of June. Made notable contribution in the field crops by fallowing the land and by cultivating different crops alternate in the ancient work like Taittiriya Samhita. Dr. William Roxburgh, Scottish surgeon and botanist who worked on economic botany, believed that for the practice of crop rotation, the Western world is indebted. Shukraniti contain instructions to manure the soils in agricultural works. Diseases and treatment of plants. Disease of trees was a matter of great concern to the people of was an important branch of study in Puranic and Vedic times. The diseases of the plants were diagnosed through some symptoms that developed in trees in diseased conditions. The study of the Brikshayurveda reveals that the method of plant treatment, both curative and preventive, were in vogue during ancient days. Ancient people were aware that for successful agriculture, crops and plants must be protected from diseases. Hence, they acquired the knowledge of plant pathology for understanding the causes, symptoms, and cures of plant diseases. The Atharva Veda refers to the destruction of corn by pestiferous insects. Sayana's commentary on this gives a long list of such pests. The Shukraniti speaks of grains which are likely to be attacked with poison, fire, or snow, or eaten by insects. Among the remedies suggested were the removal of affected parts of the plants and taking preventive measures against fresh infections through the wound. It has been observed that in the Puranas and other texts, barrenness of plants was considered a disease. It was found that to promote inflorescence and fructifications, মই ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলৰ কাৰণে কৈছো বেছিকৈ ফুল আৰু ফল ধৰাৰ কাৰণে cold water mixed with ghee and vidango was sprinkled. Again, it was said that if the fruit of a tree continues to be spoiled, it should at first be cut with weapon, then it should be smeared with a mixture of bidango, ghee and mud, and then cold water should be sprinkled over it. Flowers and fruits were produced abundantly if a mixture of kulatha, masho, mudgo, yabo, tilo, and ghee in cold water was sprinkled over a tree. It means that plants were planted first in a scientific manner, to be followed by applications of fertilizers to promote plant nutrition. It is stated in the Purana that cold water and ghee were common ingredients for sprinkling the plants. In ancient days, water used in fish washing, মাছ ধোয়া পানি, was poured to the roots of the plants. It is observed that water used in fish washing helped in the development of fruits and had been an effective medicinal application, especially for mango trees. It was observed that the application of salt water resulted in the plants in conservation of environment. Plants play an important role in the maintenance of environment that is congenial to human habitation. The need of maintaining proper balance in the environment has assumed paramount importance in the modern day society because a disturbed ecological balance is threatening the whole world. The modern day concept of plantation towards balancing the environment finds its origin in the Vedas. The Atharva Veda mentioned that cutting of a green tree was considered a crime in the society, while planting of a tree was considered a charity. Mode of plantation of trees in relation to dwelling houses beneficial to man is depicted in the Vedic literature, which is adapted by modern day science of architecture. The Govilo Grihya Sutra gives instruction for avoiding certain trees near the house in the specific direction and justifies its stand. Kaushika Sutra mentions that a householder should cultivate avoca plant, which is considered to be very efficacious in quenching fire and protects the house from fire. In the Agni Purana, Ashwatha is Ropano is considered to be a great religious act. ইয়াতে মই ক'ব খুজিছো এই যে ক'লে অশ্বত্থ is a holy tree and the religious act. আহত গছজোপাক হোলী বুলি কোৱা হৈছে আৰু অশ্বৰোপণক বা আহত গছ ৰোপণ কৰাক এটা উত্তম ধৰ্মীয় অনুষ্ঠান বুলি ইয়াতে কোৱা হৈছে। Yet it sounds religious. সাধাৰণ মানুহে সংস্কৃতত কেৱল ধৰ্ম অধৰ্ম পাপ পুণ্যৰ কথা কোৱা হয় বুলি বহুতো মানুহে কয়। ইয়াৰ কাৰণ বাৰু কি হ'ব পাৰে? কিহৰ কাৰণে এই শব্দবিলাক ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হয় মই আলোচনা কৰিম। প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয়সকলে দৰকাৰী গছক বচাবলৈ গছজোপাক ৰক্ষা কৰিবলৈ সময়ে সময়ে ধৰ্ম অধৰ্ম শব্দৰ ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছে। মাজে সময়ে তুলসী বেল আহত গছ ইত্যাদি দেৱতা হিচাপে পূজা কৰাৰ কথাও কোৱা হৈছে। এতিয়াও আপোনালোকে লক্ষ্য কৰিব যে কিছু মানুহে প্ৰতিদিন তুলসী তলত বন্তি এগছি জ্বলাই দিয়ে। আকৌ আহত গছক বা বেল গছক পানী বন্তি ইত্যাদিৰে পূজা কৰে। কাৰণ কোৱা হয় আহত গছত বিষ্ণু থাকে বেল গছত শিৱ থাকে, সেই হিচাপে তেওঁলোকে এই গছবিলাকক পূজা কৰে। মোৰ জন্মকৰ্ম ডিগবৈ তৈলনগৰীত। মই সৰুৰে পৰা লক্ষ্য কৰিছো বিভিন্ন বিশেষকে টি ট্ৰাইব বিলাকে এই যে বগাপানী টিংৰাই মাকুম ইত্যাদি অঞ্চলত আহত গছজোপাক ৰঙা কাপোৰেৰে মেৰুৱাই থয় আৰু প্ৰত্যেক দিন পানী ঢালি তেওঁলোকে তাৰ তলত বন্তি প্ৰজ্বলন ধূপ ইত্যাদি তাতে এগছি বন্তি জ্বলাই দিয়ে। এই গছজোপাক দেৱতা ভবাৰ লগে লগে তেওঁলোকে এই গছজোপাক বচাই ৰাখিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰে। এই কথা প্ৰাচীন আমাৰ ভাৰতীয়সকলে জানিছিল। তেওঁলোকে তাৰ মানে কি হৈছে যেতিয়া আমি কোনো এজোপা গছক ডেইফাই কৰো, ডেইফিকেশনস means যে দেৱত্ব আৰোপ কৰা। The purpose behind this is very important. Once you will deify a plant, you will not destroy it, and in this way the ancient people they protected the different species. It may sound religious, but it was necessary to achieve this desired goal. The purpose is to refrain man from doing any type of harm or disrespect towards these elements of the nature of which man himself is a part, and as a result there was no disturbance in ecological balance or environment. এতিয়া মই আহিছো অহত গছজোপাৰ কাৰণটো কি? What is the importance of Ashwatha? The beneficial effect of Ashwatha is noted since the leaves of the Ashwatha tree, as observed by the botanists, release oxygen all the 24 hours, by which the whole environment becomes free from pollution. The people of ancient times also knew that the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun falling on the west could be resisted by the Ashwatha tree, for which they instructed for plantation of Ashwatha tree on the western side of the homestead, what I have already mentioned. And this Ashwatha tree is the place where many insects and birds, they take shelter in this. From that point of, according to Vastu Shastra, the scientific method of plantation in the homestead in proper direction ensures prosperity and peace of the dwellings. In the Agni Purana, in the chapter of Agni Purana that deals with Vrikshayurveda, a scientific way of plantation of different types of trees has been narrated. It prescribes various directions for the plantation of various trees. For example, Ploksho tree is auspicious when planted in the north direction. Boto tree should be planted in the east direction. Udumbaro tree on the southern side, and Ashwatha tree on the western side. So these are the Ploksho, Ashwatha, Boto. It also suggests that there should be garden near the residence. Such a practice was possibly connected with removal of air pollution from different directions. The introduction of greenery forms an indispensable part of modern day town planning, which in fact is conceived from the ancient proposition to enrich the quality of life of the citizens. People in ancient days had an emotional attachment for plants and plant world. People assigned respectful status to plants, ranging from tiny herbs to big trees. Plants were compared even with children. It is said that as a worthy son brings glory and saves a family, the tree with its fruits and flowers also saves the life of its planter. In some occasions, plants and trees were given a status even superior to human beings. মানুষতকৈও বেশি শ্রেষ্ঠ বলি কোয়া হয়, superior to দশপুত্র সমদ্রুম. That means one tree is equal to 10 sons. That way, they have given the higher status to the plants. In the Vedic and post-Vedic era, people were aware of the fact that trees played an important role in well-being of the human, and hence they advocated for the plantation and conservation of trees. It is said in the Mahabharata that one must plant and protect trees like one's own sons. Putravat paripalyascha putraste dharmata smrita. They knew that preservation of trees were for the good of the entire community. They strived not only for their better present, but also for the amelioration of future generations. Conservation and protection of forests and trees were given formidable importance in Kautilya's Arthashastra. According to Kautilya, forest and plant products should be handled with proper care, and necessary punishment should be given to those involved in adverse treatment to the forests and plant products. During the time of Kautilya, cutting of trees were considered as a great offense. The trees were not to be damaged in any way, either by cutting of small branches or trunks, or the trees must not be uprooted. Pecuniary fine, that means arthik jorimana, such conditions. This perception of Kautilya finds reflection in modern day because nowadays illegal cutting of trees are considered as a serious crime and necessary punishment is given for such kind of offense under the Forest Conservation Act 1980. Plants that are used by ancient people, considering their basic needs and economic importance, are highlighted in the subsequent slides. There is practically no human activity where plants do not play a role. This direct relationship between plants and man forms the core of an interdisciplinary science called ethnobotany. Ethnobotany is defined as the study of the relationship between human societies and plants. It came into existence since the time the earliest man started gathering plants for his food or for healing wounds or when he sought cover from rain and hailstorm. The utility of plants in human life as depicted in the Vedic and post-Vedic times are mentioned under different categories. Plant as source of food and drinks, that means the plants which were used in ancient times for the purpose of food and drinks. Plants provide us with food which is the basic need of each and every one. The main source of food is cereal, vegetable, pulses, fruits, etc. The Vedic texts mention a number of grain and grain creepers. Nowadays, such species are also available in nature, while some are cultivated by the people. The list of grains mentioned in the Vedic literature includes kulmasho, beans, garmut, wild bean, godhumo, wheat, tandulo, rice, tilo, sesame, dhano, grains of corn, dhanyo, grain, pulpo or pullo, shriveled grain, mosuro, jabo, barley, brihi, rice, shasho, corn, and plashuko, fast growing rice, etc. Plants are a good source of drinks. History reveals that from the primitive days, man has been consuming alcoholic drinks brewed from plant materials. According to Vedic literature, drinks can be obtained from somolata, draksha, fruits, sugarcane, etc. There were various processes of preparing sura. It was prepared from powdered germinated rice, germinated barley, fried grains, and certain roots, herbs, etc. This preparation is still prevalent in the modern times also. These are the somolata, tilo, godhumo, and drak. In dressmaking, plants are a good source of fiber. When man first learned to cover his body with an attire, he looked to the plants for necessary articles. It appears that during Vedic age, people used to clothe themselves with textile spun from the fiber-yielding plants like karpasho, kusho, munjo, sono, etc. In the Agni Purana, it is mentioned that plants rochano, horidra, kumkumo, porpuro, agoru, chandano, etc. were used for coloring the clothes. This is the munjo, sono, corpuro, agoru. Plants in making house, furniture, and other materials. Next to food and dress, house is considered important by man, and for that purpose, he looks to plants for building materials. In the age of the Puranas, bamboo, trees, reeds, grasses were used as materials for making houses. The Matsya Purana states that plants like Shinshapa, শ্রীপর্ণী, তিন্দুক, পনস, সরল, অর্জুন, পদ্মক, অসন, অশোক, সর্জক, শাল, etc. are good materials for construction of the houses. Wood of the Udumbaro tree was generally used for making doors. Torono or gates were constructed with the wood of Plaksha, Vata, Ashwatha, Udumbaro, etc. Besides, wooden construction of Setu, or bridge, use of wood for construction of temples and pratima or image of the deities were prevailed in Puranic society. The Matsya Purana states that palaces were constructed with Sri Briksha tree. Sri Briksha means the willow tree. Plants in socio-cultural activities. Vedic literature emphasizes that plants are of sacred origin and holy in nature. Satapatha Brahmana and Atharva Billo and Palasha were regarded as sacred trees, and hence their branches in various sacraments and rites. The Khodilo tree was used for sacrificial purposes. The jupo or stake for animal slaughter, that means the jupo kashto jo pohuk boli diya hoy, in sacrifice was made of Khodilo wood. The branches and wood of palasho and billo trees were required in sacraments connected with the priestly class of Brahmana community in particular. Thus, during the investiture with the holy thread or upanayana ceremony, the staff or dando of the Brahmana boy was made of either palasho or billo tree. দ্বিজক পলাশ বা বিল্ল ট্রিৰ দণ্ডটো হাতত ধৰি দিয়া হৈছিলে উপনয়ন ceremonyৰ সময়ত. Plants in making fragrant material. It is an inherent urge in man to beautify his or her body and to keep his immediate environment cheerful with fragrance. The Agni Purana states that plants like Ushiro, Vishnukranta, Chandano, Rakta Chandano, Agoru, Shariko, Kushtho, and Shankhini are the sources of fragrance. It also states that fragrant oil can be obtained from Manjishtha, Togoro, Cholo, Baghronakho, and Gandhopatro. Some of the plants used for the fragrant materials. These are the Ushiro, Kushtho, Vishnukranta, Baghronakho. The Brahmavaivarta Purana states that Veding oil is made fragrant with the fruits of Amalako and it enhances the physical beauty of the user. The Agni Purana refers that continuous use of bathing articles like Kumkumo, Shaileo, Togoro, Kranta, Korpuro, Mangshi, Mura, and Kushtho beautify the user. Modern phytochemical studies of these plants may help in ascertaining the usefulness of these plants for the present age. Plants in making utensils. Plants and plant products in the food will remain incomplete if you do not take into account of the part played by plants in making utensils. In the Vedic age, various types of utensils used in household work and sacrifices were made of plants. Wooden vessels, different types of ladles made of ashwatha and banyan wood find frequent mention in the Vedic literature. Plants like Udumbaro, Olavu, Bongsho, etc. were used for making utensils. In the modern day society also, wooden spoon is used in the various cuisines. Plants in weapon making. War and weapons have become directly or indirectly an integral part of human life since the primitive stage of civilization. The nature of weapons changed with the progress of science and technology. In the ancient age, a host of weapons were used to be made of different parts of plants. According to the Puranas, plants like Chandano, Chuto, Dhavala, Kokubho, Karpasho, Khodiro, Kusho, Lokuko, Munjo, Betosho, Salo, etc. are useful in making the weapons. Plants in medicinal uses. The Vedas and the Puranas contain sufficient information about the medicinal plants. The study revealed that out of the vast treasure of medicinal plants, some are found to possess properties to fight against all types of diseases. In the Agni Purana, 36 such plants, namely Haritaki, Aksho, ধাত্রী, মরিচ, পিপ্পলি, সিফা, বহ্নি, সুন্থি, গুরুচি, বচ, নিম্ব, বাসক, শতমূলি, কণ্টকারী, গক্ষুর, বিল্ল, পুনর্নবা, জীরক, বিড়ঙ্গ, খদির, হরিদ্রা, etc. are mentioned. These plants are called sarvaushadhi because these are useful for all types of diseases. I would like to draw your attention on the plant guruchi in the context of the present day pandemic situation. এই যে গুৰুচি গছৰ কথা মই ইয়াতে উল্লেখ কৰিছো আমি দেখিছো over the last couple of months we are going through a very challenging time with the rise of COVID-19 rendering the whole humanity helpless under its threat. During this unprecedented situation, fear of death, loneliness, etc. are making people's life restless. Depression, etc., the fear of death. Manuhe, ei je কি খালে ইমিউনিটি বাঢ়িব হেয়াই ভাবি আছে মোৰ বন্ধু বান্ধৱ আত্মীয় পৰিজনেও অন্যান্য প্ৰয়োজনীয় বস্তু খোৱাৰ লগতে গিলয় খাবলৈ পৰামৰ্শ দিছে ময়ো আনিলো গিলয়ৰ ট্যাবলেট থাকে বা গিলয়ৰ জুস খাবলৈ বহুতে পৰামৰ্শ দিছে তেতিয়া মই ভাবিলো এই গিলয়ক সংস্কৃতত কি কয় তেতিয়া মই দেখিলো গিলয় হল এই যে গুৰুচি Nospora cordifolia, the scientific name. তেতিয়া মই অগ্নি পুৰাণৰ বৃক্ষায়ুৰ্বেদ এইবিলাক chapter 2 মেলি চালো তাতে স্পষ্টকৈ লিখা আছে গুৰুচি is an important medicinal plant which can fight against all kinds of diseases and enhances lifespan into 300 years. তার মানে আর অসমীয়াতেই গুৰুচিক কোৱা হয় অমৰলতা বা গুলঞ্চ বুলিও কোৱা হয় এই বস্তুটো বহুতৰ ঘৰত গছজোপা আছে এই অমৰলতা শব্দটোৰ পৰাই আমি বুজি পাও যে it increases the lifespan of the human being. This is গুৰুচি কণ্টকারী বিড়ঙ্গ and পুনর্নবা শতমূলি বিল্ল. Another important area explored by the Agni Purana is the use of plant materials in the physiology of reproduction. This Purana suggests some simple method with the aid of plant materials for lessening the labor pain, easy delivery of the child, and preventing the miscarriage. The Agni Purana further discusses the utilities of some plants in combating certain venoms and toxins. সাপ বা বিছা ইত্যাদি কামুৰিলে কিছুমান অগ্নি পুৰাণত দিয়া আছে কিছুমান প্লান্টছৰ নাম এইবিলাকৰ দ্বাৰা এইবিলাক টক্সিনছ বিলাক তেওঁলোকে এই টক্সিনৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত বা ভেনমছৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰে so I have come to the last part of my lecture so in conclusions it can be said that India cultivated plant science in howsoever rudimentary form at a time when most of the seeds of ancient civilization knew little or nothing about it. শেষত মই এটা কথাই ক'ব খুজো যে প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয় শাস্ত্ৰত উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞানৰ যি বৰ্ণনা আমি পাইছো ইয়াৰ সৈতে আধুনিক যুগৰ উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞানৰ মই ইয়াতে তুলনা কৰিব খোজা নাই কাৰণ প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয়সকলে উদ্ভিদ জগতখনৰ ওপৰত একান্তভাৱে নিৰ্ভৰশীল আছিল তেওঁলোকে বনস্পতি জগতখনক যথাযথভাৱে জানিবলৈ চেষ্টা কৰিছিল বিজ্ঞান মনস্ক মনেৰে একৈকটি বৃক্ষক পৰীক্ষা নিৰীক্ষা কৰিছিল মানুহৰ জীৱনৰ ওপৰত প্ৰয়োগ কৰি ফলাফল নথিভুক্ত কৰিছিল আধুনিক উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞানী সকলে যদি প্ৰাচীন এই বিজ্ঞানক যথাযথভাৱে বিশ্লেষণ কৰি অনাবিষ্কৃত তথ্যবিলাক উলিয়াই আনিব পাৰে তেনেহলে বৰ্তমান উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞান আৰু সমৃদ্ধশালী হ'ব বুলি মোৰ দৃঢ় বিশ্বাস কিন্তু এইখিনিতে এটাই বিৰম্বনা আহি পৰে যিসকলে বিজ্ঞানৰ চৰ্চা কৰে তেওঁলোকে সংস্কৃত নাজানে বা কম জানে আকৌ যিসকলে সংস্কৃত জানে তেওঁলোকে বৈজ্ঞানিক পদ্ধতিৰে এইবিলাক প্ৰমাণ কৰিব নোৱাৰে। মই এই প্ৰেজেন্টেশ্যনটো দিয়াৰ আগতে মই আমাৰ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ বটানী বিভাগৰ কলিগসকলৰ লগত আলোচনা কৰিছিলো। তেওঁলোকে মোক কেইটামান আৰ্টিকেল পঠিয়াইও দিছিলে। তাতে এটা আৰ্টিকেল যেনে ৰিভিউ অফ দি প্ৰি ডাৰ্উনিয়ান ক্লাছিফিকেশ্যনত মই পাইছো যে তেওঁলোকে বিশেষভাৱে উল্লেখ কৰিছে যে পৰাশৰৰ কন্ট্ৰিবিউশনৰ কথা তেওঁলোকে বিশেষভাৱে উল্লেখ কৰিছে। কিন্তু লগতে এইটো কথাও লিখা আছে যে ডিউ টু লেক অফ নলেজ অফ সংস্কৃত the information compiled by Parashara remains poor botanist. শেষত সৰু এটা প্ৰসংগ উত্থাপন কৰি মই মোৰ বক্তব্য শেষ কৰিম। 2014 চনত আমেৰিকা প্ৰিন্সটন ইউনিভাৰ্চিটিৰ গণিতৰ অধ্যাপক মঞ্জুল ভাৰ্গৱক ফিল্ড মেডেল সন্মানেৰে সন্মানিত কৰা হৈছিল। ফিল্ড মেডেল হ'ল মেথমেটিক্সত আটাইতকৈ সন্মানীয় পুৰস্কাৰ। যদিও নোবেল বঁটাকে সৰ্বোচ্চ সন্মান বুলি ধৰা হয়, কিন্তু নোবেল বঁটাত গণিত বিষয়টো অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত নোহোৱা কাৰণে ফিল্ড মেডেলকে শ্ৰেষ্ঠ বুলি কোৱা হয়। কিছুমানে আকৌ ফিল্ড মেডেলক নোবেলতকৈও সন্মানীয় বুলি কয় কাৰণ নোবেল বঁটা প্ৰতি বছৰ দিয়া হয় আৰু ফিল্ড মেডেলটো প্ৰতি 4 বছৰ অন্তৰ দিয়া হয়। যি কি নহওক, মঞ্জুল ভাৰ্গৱে বঁটা পোৱাৰ পিছত তেওঁক যেতিয়া ইণ্টাৰভিউ লোৱা হৈছিল, তেতিয়া সাংবাদিকসকলে তেখেতক সুধিছিল যে তেওঁৰ এই অসামান্য কৃতিত্বৰ অনুপ্ৰেৰণা কি। তেতিয়া তেওঁ অতি সুন্দৰকৈ বিনম্ৰভাৱে কৈছিল যে মোৰ এই কৃতিত্বৰ দাবিদাৰ মই অকলে নহয়, মোৰ পূৰ্বজ প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয় গণিতজ্ঞসকল যেনে আৰ্যভট্ট, বৰাহমিহিৰ, ব্ৰহ্মগুপ্ত, ভাস্কৰ আদিয়ে মোৰ কাৰণে যি প্লেটফৰ্ম বনাই থৈ গৈছে, মই মাত্ৰ তাৰ ওপৰত থিয় হৈ অলপ কাম আগবঢ়াই লৈ গৈছো। অৰ্থাৎ কেক এটা বনোৱাৰ পিছত আইচিং দিয়াৰ দৰে। এই ৱেবিনাৰ লেকচাৰত ডিব্ৰু কলেজৰ উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞান বিভাগৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলে যদি এই মঞ্জুল ভাৰ্গৱৰ দৰে প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয় উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞানে যি প্লেটফৰ্ম ৰচনা কৰি থৈ গৈছে তাৰ ওপৰত থিয় হৈ তেওঁলোকৰ প্ৰিন্সিপাল তেওঁ বটানী বিভাগৰে তেওঁৰ সুপাৰভিশনতে যদি এই ডিব্ৰু কলেজৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকলে এই প্লেটফৰ্মৰ ওপৰতে প্ৰাচীন ভাৰতীয় উদ্ভিদ বিজ্ঞানীসকলে যি প্লেটফৰ্ম ৰচনা কৰি থৈ গৈছে তাৰ ওপৰত থিয় হৈ আৰু বহু দূৰ আগুৱাই যাব বুলি মোৰ দৃঢ় বিশ্বাস। Thank you.
We have a few questions for you, ma'am. The first question we have is from Himadri Sharma, and she has asked, Vidyangana, ma'am, could you explain it again?
Viranga.
Viranga.
Viranga is a medicinal plant, and most of the plants mentioned in the ancient Sanskrit literature are medicinal plants, and these are of great use for every purpose. It is also called Sarvaushadhi. It is efficacious for all types of diseases and for other purposes. Perhaps I have mentioned in my other slides also, preparation of utensils, for preparing utensils, then arms, etc. It is useful for all purposes. I have already. Shall I explain it again?
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, madam.
I hope Himadri Sharma has got her answer. She is an MA student.
Yes, for the treatment of plants, for the treatment of human diseases, and for preparing some fragrant materials also, Virango is used. So Virango is a very useful plant.
Ma'am, there are 3 questions which I would like to have their answer in Assamese. One question is from Deepika Das. Second is from Rekibuddin Ahmed Kabir, and they have question যে আপুনি যে কৈছে তুলসী গছত যে চাকি জ্বলোৱা কথাটো কৈছে তাৰ ইম্পৰ্টেন্স আৰু সাইন্টিফিক হেৰি এক্সপ্লেনেশন কি আছে আৰু নেক্সটটো হৈছে নাৰিকল বা লাউ গছত যে আপুনি কৈছে মাছৰ ধোৱা পানীবোৰ দিয়া হয় হেতুৰো হে একে হেৰিতে সুধিছে প্ৰশ্নটো
মাছ ধোৱা পানীখিনি এটো সব প্ৰটিন আসলতে প্ৰটিন লাগে গছত মই মানে আমাৰ মা আইতাহতকো মই দেখিছো মাছ ধোৱা পানীখিনি এনে পেলাই দিব দিয়া নাছিল তেওঁলোকে সদায় কয় লাউ গছত গৈ দিয়া এতিয়া মই ইয়াতে পঢ়ি পেলাই গম পালো যে ম্যাঙ্গো ট্ৰিৰ কাৰণে ইট ইজ প্ৰটিনৰ দৰকাৰ হয় সম্ভৱত সেই কাৰণে মই আৰু পাইছো কিছুমান মাংসৰ যিবিলাক মানে মানে ইউজ কৰা মাংসৰ অংশবিলাক সেইবিলাক পানীত তিয়াই তাৰ লগতে বিৰংগ ইত্যাদি গছৰ ৰসবিলাক মিলাই এইবিলাক দিয়া হয় হেতু কাৰণে সম্ভৱত এটো প্ৰটিনৰ কাৰণে দিয়া হৈছিল কিয় দিয়া হৈছিল মোৰ এনালাইসিছত এইটোৱে হ'ব লাগে আৰু চাকি যে দিয়া হয় তুলসী গছক মই আগতেই কৈছো তাতে দেৱতা আৰোপ কৰি দিয়া হৈছে দেৱত্ব আৰোপ কৰা হৈছে আজিৰ দিনত চাব এই যে পেণ্ডেমিক সিচুৱেশনত আমি কিন্তু তুলসী ব্যৱহাৰ কৰি আছো সবে কৈ আছে তুলসী পাত খাবলে যে তুলসী পাত আমাৰ পূজাতো ব্যৱহাৰ হয় আমাৰ যিকোনো পূজা তার মানে পূজাত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰাৰো কিন্তু এটা কাৰণ আছে তার মানে পূজাত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰি সেই তুলসী পাতটো আমি গ্ৰহণ কৰিম সেই পূজাত ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা বস্তুটো আমি পেলাই নিদিও সেই কাৰণে তুলসী পাত মানে যিকোনো প্ৰকাৰে আমি তাক কনজিউম কৰো আৰু তুলসী পাতটো যাতে তুলসী গছজোপাক যাতে কোনেও কাটি নষ্ট কৰি নিদিয়ে প্ৰত্যেক ঘৰতে যাতে তুলসী গছ এজোপা থাকে তার কারণে সেই তাতে দেৱত্ব আৰোপ কৰা দেৱতাৰ নিচিনা জ্ঞান কৰা হয় যে তুলসীত কোন থাকে বিষ্ণু থাকে এই হিসাবতে মই আগতেই কৈছো দেৱতা আৰোপ কৰাৰ কাৰণটো কি so that you will not destroy it or not you will cut it আৰু বন্তি যে জ্বলাই হেতু তো দেৱতা হিচাপেও পৰে আৰু কিছু পোক মাকৰ বিলাক সাধাৰণতে মই কাতি মাহত দেখিছো কাতি মাহত যে আমাৰ প্ৰদীপ প্ৰজ্বলন কৰাৰ নিয়মটোৱে হল তেতিয়া খুব বেছি পোক হয় আৰু ইনসে এই গছৰ ধান গছ বিলাকক খাই দিয়ে এইবিলাকে পোক বিলাকে নষ্ট কৰে সেই কাৰণে চাকি জ্বলোৱাৰ যিটো নিয়ম চাকিটো সম্ভৱত সেই কাৰণে দিয়া হয় আৰু লগতে যে দেৱতা হিচাপে জ্ঞান কৰিও So, is it clear to our students?
I hope they have understood Bhuji Paisa Nisoy. We have another question from Dimpy Kolita. What is the major impact and the role of Vriksha Ayurveda on the modern times, especially at the time of pandemic now?
Vriksha Ayurvedate moi jikhini aji alochona korilu what I have discussed it is in the context of Vriksha Ayurveda only. From the Vriksha Ayurveda, one Vriksha Ayurveda was written by Parashara and it was of 100 BC. So that book is lost. And then another book, Vriksha Ayurveda of Shurupalo, now it is not available. The original text is not available. It is kept in the British Museum. The Vriksha Ayurveda of Shurupalo. Someone has taken it up from there, the Xerox copy, and after that, one Nolini Sadle, she has that Vriksha Ayurveda, she has translated it and edited that portions. So, and that way, it is available in the market now. And in this pandemic situation, all the medicinal plants, what I have mentioned here, these are mostly from the Vriksha Ayurveda of the Agni Purana or from the Vriksha Ayurveda of the Shurupalo. So, Dimpy, is it clear to you?
I think so. Since I think she's your student, so she can get
Yes.
Ma'am, there's another question like, can you suggest some name of the books regarding the plants that you have mentioned about the plant science and all? Are they available in the market? If so, who are the publishers?
I have referred Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is available in translated works in Assamese, in Bengali, in English, Hindi. In many languages, Mahabharata is available. There are various commentaries on the Mahabharata. So for the students of Sanskrit, they will go through the commentaries, and for the general people, they can go through the translated works also. In the Mahabharata, in the Shanti Parva, there are lots of informations on the plants. And I have mentioned the Brikshayurveda section of the Agni Purana. Agni Purana is also available in that, it's translated in Hindi, English, Bengali, in many languages, in other languages also. So I have mentioned Brikshayurveda, then Manu Samhita. Manu Samhita is also available text, and for the students of Sanskrit and for other people also, Manu Samhita, we find the Assamese version of Manu Samhita, and it is the text of the Sanskrit students also. And the Shurupala's, the Nalini Sadle, what she has translated, it is available, maybe, if I am not wrong, it is available in the Motilal Banarsidass publishers.
Ma'am, we have a few questions which are almost in the same line by Pranab Pal. How did the ancient time discuss or deforestation? And and the second question also in the same line, what will be a responsibility to restore this old branch of science?
So one should go through the texts or the translated works. If in my conclusions also, I have said that if the careful research is different directions in this field.
There's another question again related to environment is what is the impact on environment at the present that we have lockdown? So what is the impact of lockdown on the environment now at the present situation?
Environment at present situation, it is my personal opinion that the environment is more lively nowadays. I can hear the sounds of the birds. Maybe because of this situation, it is not a crowded situation. In this situation, the birds are moving freely, and even the plants are, I feel the plants are looking very graceful nowadays. Maybe not because of the too much crowd. And I stay in the university campus, so maybe there it is surrounded by plants, and maybe this may be one of the cause that I have observed this. This is my personal opinion.
I think I agree with you, because of less of pollutions of the car and everything, the environment is more now. আৰু এটা প্ৰশ্ন আছে, হেতু ডক্টৰ কৰবী বৰুৱা গগৈয়ে সুধিছে যে আমি গছৰ তলত আমি চাকি জ্বলাও, সো হে চাকি যে জ্বলাও তাৰ পৰা যিখিনি ধোঁৱা বা পলিউশন হয়, does it affect the plant?
চাকিটো
আমি ধৰক জ্বলাও,
এনেতো চাকিটো সাধাৰণতে ঘিউৰ চাকি যিটো হয় সেইটো বেছি ভাল। আমি বহু সময়ত মন্দিৰত গলে ঘিউৰ চাকি দিওঁ, বা তেল বা ঘিউৰ চাকি দিয়া যায়। যদি ভাল তেল বা ভাল ঘিউৰ চাকি হয়, মইতো ভাবো এইটো পলিউশন ফ্ৰী হে হ'ব। এই ধোঁৱা যিটো ওলাই তাৰে পৰা, যদি চাকিৰ পৰা যিটো ধোঁৱা ওলাব, খুব বেছিতো ধোঁৱা নোলাব, এগছি বন্তি জ্বলালে তাৰ পৰা খুব বেছি পৰিমাণে ধোঁৱা এক্সট্ৰেক্ট নহয়। আৰু এই ধোঁৱাটো আপোনাৰ গাড়ীৰ বা পেট্ৰল ডিজেলৰ ধোঁৱা নহয়, এইটো ধোঁৱাটো হ'ল আপোনাৰ ঘিউ বা তেল, কিছুমানে তিল তেল ব্যৱহাৰ কৰে। ইট ইজ সাজেষ্টেড তিল তেল ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে কোৱা হয়, কেতিয়াবা আপোনাৰ সৰিয়হৰ তেল বা ঘিউ ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হয়। I don't think that there will be pollutions. আৰু যজ্ঞৰ যিটো ধোঁৱা এইটোতো প্ৰুফ কৰা আছে যে অগ্নিহোত্ৰ স্যাক্ৰিফাইসটো আমাৰ ইয়াতেও অসমতো আপোনাৰ এইটো পৰীক্ষা কৰি দেখা গৈছে যে যজ্ঞত যিবিলাক বস্তু প্ৰক্ষেপ কৰা হয় তাৰ দ্বাৰা কিমান ডায়ামিটাৰ লৈকে ইট ইজ দা এনভায়ৰনমেন্টটো একেবাৰে পলিউশন ফ্ৰী হৈ যায়।
ইয়াৰে ৰেফাৰেন্সত মই এটা জাস্ট কথা কৈছো, দুলিয়াজানৰ ওচৰত যেটো মানে হে টিলিঙা মন্দিৰ আছে, যি গছৰ তলত চাকি জ্বলোৱা হৈছিল, হেতু মই অৱশ্যে যোৱা নাই বহুত দিন, কিন্তু শুনিছো because of so many lamp that is being lit there, there's slight decay in the গছৰ মানে হেৰি গছজোপা decay হ'ব ধৰিছে।
Okay. That may be one of the causes. The number of lights or the lamps are there, so this may be one of the cause in some cases. But in one depot or the Prodipo will definitely, from that smoke, it will not be affected, in my opinion. And what you have said, I agree on this.
We do not have much time, so we'll just take up one or two more questions. Prashna eta ahise, what is the difference between Pana and Madhupana?
Pano and Madhupano. Where from? Pano, in the sense, have I referred all these things here? May not be.
Yes, ma'am.
Pano, in the sense, Pano, where from it has been taken? I have not cited this thing.
It is an can ODT.
Is it a technical? Is it a technical term?
No,
What?
I don't know. Answer box. Ma'am, could you explain the difference between Pana and Madhupana? And it's been taken up by Chandamita Bhattacharjee from Guwahati University.
Chandamita. Chandamita asane linot. Chandamita.
Ma'am,
So Pano in the sense the drinks, or Madhupano maybe Surapano, or like this Madhu in the sense it may be the drinks which are used. What I have mentioned, the ancient people used to take drinks from the draksha, then sugar cane, and other materials are also there. So in that sense, if these drinks are used as a Pano or the Madhupano, perhaps what she has. Slide number, please. From which slide she has referred it? I have not mentioned it.
Question answer branch. It's in the Q&A section.
Yes, that I know, but yes. this term I have not used. I have not discussed these things. So in what context she has asked, I am not sure about that.
Maybe she can clear it up by meeting you later on.
Okay.
We have another question from Priyanka Roy, and that is when we talk about science, it's a materialistic, and then Sanskrit and ancient Sanskrit is spirituality. So can we have a balance between both?
Please, madam, repeat the question.
The question is, science is materialistic, and our Sanskrit ancient books believe in spirituality, God, etc. So the question is, did this ancient book discuss about science?
Yes, ancient books, I have already mentioned that in the ancient text, we find the references of science. And I remember, I forgot the actual quotations of Abdul Kalam, our former president. He said that when mixture of science and spirituality is the culminating point of any success for any success. So when the science is blended with spirituality, definitely a good result comes out. So science, yes.
Yes, ma'am, you go ahead.
Yes, science without spirituality. In Sanskrit literature also we find the references of science, and in the those who are the scientists, many scientists have referred this part. They have said that science without spirituality is useless. So when science and spirituality will go side by side, and spirituality doesn't mean the religious activities. Spirituality is something different from the religion or ritualistic purposes. So in that way, when science and spirituality is blended, definitely
we are taking up the last question for today, and that is the ethics that are mentioned in the ancient Sanskrit literature. Can we follow it today, or can it be used in our life today? Is it relevant today?
Ethics.
Yes.
The ethic.
Yes.
Yes, the ethics, it is definitely, without ethics, a man cannot survive. This is in every discipline and everywhere, in all occasions. Without ethical discipline, in yoga philosophy also, we mentioned that without ethical discipline, a man cannot go far away. So ethics is very important. Unless and until a person is morally, ethically, one person is disciplined, he will not achieve anything in this world. This is my personal opinion. So ethics is a very important aspect in everyone's life.
Thank you, ma'am. There are more questions coming up, but since our time is almost over, we would close our question answer session here. Thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful deliberation.
Nandita video. Nandita video. আমাৰ ষ্টুডেণ্টে প্ৰশ্ন সুধিছে সেইকেইটা উঠাই দিয়া ভাল হ'ব নেকি?
তুমিও সুধি দিয়া সেইটো।
ঠিক আছে। বাইদেউ, one of our student from our department, she asked that what is the method of healthy growth and productivity of a tree?
Healthy
growth and productivity of a tree.
Healthy growth to whole কিভাবে তাৰ মানে গছ এজোপাক ভালকে ধুনীয়াকৈ ৰাখিবৰ কাৰণে কি কি ব্যৱস্থা কৰিব পাৰি। মই মোৰ স্লাইডত এইবিলাক ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছিলো যে এটা এজোপা গছ হেলদি হোৱাৰ কাৰণে এই যে কেইটামান ট্ৰিটমেন্টৰ কথা মই কৈছিলো, এইটো হল তেল দিয়াৰ কথা কৈছে। Effective medicinal application. For it was observed that salt water with the কিছুমান গছৰ কাৰণে বিভিন্ন মেথড আছে, যেনে নাৰিকল গছ হলে তাক ভাল ৰাখিবৰ কাৰণে নিমখীয়া পানী দিব লাগে, অথবা গাঁতটো খান্দি চাৰিও কাষতে নিমখ দিব লাগে। নিমখ দিয়াৰ কাৰণটোৱে হল নাৰিকল গছ হল সি বেল্টৰ গছ, সেইকাৰণে সি বেল্টত নিমখ থাকে কাৰণে এই বস্তুবিলাক ব্যৱহাৰ কৰা হয়। এন্ড ওভাৰঅল দিয়াৰ কাৰণে বাৰে বাৰে কৈছে cold water with ghee was a common ingredient for sprinkling the plants. ঘিৰ লগতে যদি পানী মিলাই গছত ছটিয়াই দিয়া যায়, সেই গছজোপা সতেজ হৈ যায় বুলি কয়। এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ আৰু বহুত, মই মাত্ৰ ৩-৪টা ৰেফাৰেন্স ইয়াতে দিছো। Number of prescriptions are there for the growth of the plants and for the protection of the plants. Abo শুনা পাইছা? তোমাৰ কথা মই শুনা নাই।
Baidu, thank you. Another more question. It is said that do you think the environment ethics narrated in the Manu Samhita should be followed strictly nowadays?
Yes, if you can follow it properly, that is well and good, because they have prescribed for sometimes for the protection of the plants. Why protection of plant is required? Because to save the environment. To save the environment, protection of plants are required. Not only plants, animals also. There should be the ecological balance in the environment. So for the Manu Samhita has prescribed many things. So if we can follow, so they have for the protection of plants, sometimes they have applied some emotions. Sometimes they have just like Kautilya has given some strict instructions regarding the fines, and he imposed fines, and sometimes they have consider that the plants are their sons. So in that way, this technique, if you can apply in modern day, I think it will be very much effective, because it will be sometimes it happens that if you consider a plant as your child, you will take care of it. You will take care of it. Nowadays, the insurance company, what they do, they always say that you please make, yes, hello, শুনা পাইছা? কেতিয়াবা ইন্স্যুৰেন্স কোম্পানী বিলাকে কি কৰে যে লৰাৰ নামত বাইদেউ এটা ইন্স্যুৰেন্স কৰি দিয়ক, ছোৱালীৰ নামত এটা ইন্স্যুৰেন্স কৰো। আমি কি কৰো, যিকোনো অৱস্থাত নিজৰ ইন্স্যুৰেন্স খিনি কৰিব নোৱাৰিলেও লৰা ছোৱালীটো কিন্তু আমি নকৰাকে নাথাকো। This is the technique, the emotions, they applied the emotions, they applied that technique. ঠিক গছৰ ক্ষেত্ৰতো যদি মই মোৰ লৰাৰ জন্মদিনৰ দিনা যদি এজোপা গছ লগাই দিও, সেই গছজোপাক ৰক্ষা কৰাটো কিন্তু মোৰ দায়িত্ব বা মোৰ লৰাৰ দায়িত্ব, মোৰ ফ্যামিলিৰ দায়িত্ব। So we always take care of this plant. So in that way, these are the instructions given in ancient times, in Manu Samhita, Mahabharata, in everywhere. So if in nowadays also we can take the modern technique also as well as the ancient taking of Manu Samhita, etc. for the protection and conservation of plants. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaidu. Nonita, Vaidu.
Finally come to the end of our 2 days webinar organized by Sanskrit Department and Internal Assessment, Internal IQAC of Dibru College. Now, I, on behalf of Dibru College, offer the formal vote of thanks. First, we would like to thank our principal, Dr. Jitu Buragohai sir, for encouraging us to go ahead with this webinar, giving us all the support that was required. Thank you, sir, and we hope to keep getting support from you in our future also. A sincere thanks goes out to IQAC for their advice and guidance. We thank Department of Sanskrit, their HOD, Dr. Aditi Borua, and co-host Madhumita Goswami for organizing this webinar and giving us an opportunity to learn and listen to two wonderful speakers. I sincerely would like to thank both the resource person for the wonderful deliberation that they have given us. Organizing an event is not easy. And I may quote from yesterday's lecture, how management comes in here from planning, motivation, leadership, organizing, and finally executing this whole thing. In this, we would like to thank Dr. Moitri Mayuri Sharma, who had taken the role of a manager, advising, pushing us, holding this webinar was her. Under her pressure, I think, as Dr. Aditi told me, that this webinar could have been a successful one. Thank you, Dr. Maitri, and we hope you keep advising and pushing us to do many more webinars. This webinar would never have been successful without our resource person, Professor Sudeshna Bhattacharjee, who rightly pointed out that Gita should be read not only as a spiritual book, but should be looked up in different perspective. Thank you, Madam Sudeshna, for opening our eyes of looking at Gita from a completely different angle. Thank you also for showing us the three-layered communication and also how management can be used as a motivational tool. We also offer a thanks to Dr. Mukta Bishwas, who spoke so well on the ancient Indian literature about plant science. It has really been an eye-opening to all of us. I'm sure most of us, I don't know about others, but I am not from a science forum or from Sanskrit. But then your talk was so enlightening that I am really thinking sincerely that I should start reading some of the ancient books regarding plants and other things. And it is so marvelous to see how ancient India was so progressive, so scientifically developed. And it is sad that today's people are not aware of it. Thank you, ma'am, for your very wonderful and enlightening deliberation. Our sincere thanks
Thank
goes
you.
to all the participants. I have seen that the participants are from Bangalore, from West Bengal, Bihar, Jaipur. Thank you all for joining us and making this webinar a success, because without you, this entire thing would have been pointless. While reading a book by Temsula Au, I think many of you may know that she is a writer from Nagaland, and she had mentioned in her book that new environment, new situation brings up new words in our vocabulary. So today we find words such as pandemic, staying safe, social distancing has come into our world. And also the words like webinar has come into our this thing, and digital technology. So today's program would never have been complete without the technical support of our two young digital and technologically savvy person, Gunindra Bora and Vikas Stuti. Thank you for making this entire 2 days webinar program a great success.